A young black gentleman was shot, and the fires were on the coal, and it was ready to unite and go against a covert war, if you will. And so I think it was Snoop Dogg and the Game. They ended up meeting with the police department chief of Los Angeles along with the mayor. They were trying to work on it because it was going down. There was enough, so to speak. He gets a call, and the call is from I guess it was like a Tuesday afternoon. The call is from these guys about to go to war, so to speak. And Minister Tony, it's like, it's intense. It's like, what? You going to war? He said, okay, check this out. You really need to call the minister, Minister Farrakhan, and get some instructions. And so they call the minister. He sets everything up, and minister listens to him and says, okay, now I need you to call Minister Tony back and do what he says. So they call Minister Tony back, and Minister Tony tells them, okay, brother, we can't be starting no wars, and we can't be doing that. So what we need to do is a summit. We need to do a summit. We need to call in all the Crips and Bloods, all the OGs and everybody. We're going to meet on this weekend at the community center, which is the community center down in Los Angeles, South Central, right? It's part of the ideal org scenario out of Inglewood, right? I'll just say that, just to leave a little bit of a teaser there. And so after that, Mr. Tony calls me, and he's like, Rev, we got to do something, man. Something's happening with LA. We got to do a summit. And I'm like, what? What do you mean? What do you mean we're having a conference, a summit, a gang summit with the Crips and the Bloods on Sunday, right? So you got to understand, he's already put the word out. And these guys, Snoop, they put the word out to the gangs. Now, one thing that did not happen is, so the first thing that happened is that there was no CSW. CSW meaning a request for the use of some facility permission to do something. All right, so what has just happened is that we have committed to using the community center property that he doesn't own and I don't own, and neither does Snoop Dogg or Crips and Bloods own. We committed to holding a summit between the Crips and the Blood at this community center on Vermont, Los Angeles, California. So I'm like, man, so he just said it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to get roasted because I brought you to the party, kind of thing. It's like, and on top of that, when you do these events, right, you have to get permits from the government. So first of all, you got the Crips and the Bloods. They're going to send the word out. The word's going to go on the street. We're going to have 3,000, 4,000 people showing up to a place that only holds 275, 300 people. So we got a logistical nightmare. We're getting ready to, it's already out. We're getting ready to do a conference between the Crips and the Blood. That's the first thing, the Crips and the Blood. Who, by the way, when they programmed between each other, when they look at each other, see one, see the other, automatically you're going to probably have violence if they look upon each other, right? Red, blue, whatever. Yeah. And so as a consequence, I'm like, oh my goodness, okay? Not to mention that Snoop and the Game are not the leaders of the Crips and the Blood. So how they going to call a summit? So we didn't get the CSW approval or the authorization from the real leaders of the Crips and the Bloods who happens to be in prison. So it's like, how you going to call a meeting between our people, our troops downline? You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So now we got bypassing on leadership. Oh, my God. And we got a thing going down, and we got a facility that we're on, and now we have to get permission from permits to get done in 3 days. You know how long it takes to get permit to do something?
Months, yeah.
Months, yeah. Correct? And then after you get the permission, you got to get the signatures of the neighbors around the facility because now you got to block the streets off. And not to mention you need chairs because now you got to get a velodrome because only 300 people can be held in the building and the other people have to be held outside with a drone because they can't get in. So that makes people tense and why we can't get in and who are those people? So you got all of this stuff. So I called up some people at the Celebrity Center and I sent up some messages to some very wonderful people in the management of the Church of Scientology. And Minister Tony cannot leave because he's in a spiritual process that has to go on. So naturally, I'm the one that has to go to LA, fly in there, and I flew in there like the next day to set up. And when I showed up to the event, it was very profound because there were these gentlemen, I believe they're from International Landlord or some group, but whoever they are, they were impeccably dressed, and they were well groomed. And I walked into the community center and walked to the office and said, "So, Reverend Johnson, we're here to help you to do what needs to be done." I was like, "What?" So let me tell you something, man. I don't know how that was a miracle. First of all that part's a miracle, right? So some kind of way we had to raise money to get.
And then you didn't mention somebody's got to pay for all this.
Yeah, we got to pay for it. Yeah, right. So I called my son. My son is real good with a lot of celebrities. He called up, Snoop and Shaq and a few others. These are all his friends, and because Snoop had put the word out, so they agreed to get the drone, what you call the velodrome, the big screen.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So he said,
Jumbotron?
So he called Jumbotron, there you go.
Yeah.
And Snoop said, okay, call my accountant, told him to call the accountant. The accountant calls the Jumbotron people, and they bring out the thing like the next day.
Yeah.
And it just so happened that it was a time where they would be celebrating what is called the Maiden Voyage, and at LA Day, and they had 5,000 chairs. And so they ended up bringing the chairs out of the blue over to the community center and set up the street. And of course, we were able to get permission to block off the street miraculously because the mayor's office was involved and the chief of police office was involved. And so we were able to set things up. So 2 days later, we roll up on a Sunday morning. And I don't know to this day, but I tell you, there's an organization, one of the greatest organizations ever founded. We call them the Sea Org. And they went to part of the publishing arm of this organization, the church, and they created these most magnificent banners you ever seen, where you had red and blue and lowriders posters and Crips and Blood, and they had the building looking like the Oscars, and red carpet and blue carpet out. And so that day when the gangs members came in, red and blue and lowriders and this and that, you had OGs who had canes and hats on and their colors. They were getting out these cars, and there were people taking pictures of them, and they were looking at the building and saying, "Man, this is really magnificent." And they're rolling into the place, and it was just so beautiful. And the drums, it was all set up. It was just wonderful. And then the event started, and we opened it up, and then we brought on the speakers, and each speaker was speaking, and the gang members, and by that time they were applauding, and everything was united. You had the Crips hugging the Bloods, and the Bloods hugging the Crips, and they were switching colors, and they were vowing, signing pledge to peace, and all this kind of things. And it ended off that we must do this, and it was just the most. And then all of a sudden the mayor comes out. It was Eric Garcetti at the time, and the police chief, and they were taking pictures with the Crips and the Bloods, and we ended the whole war and whatever. People don't realize from that point on, we had been doing peace rides before then in South Central LA. We rode motorcycles, lowriders, and go-karts and skateboards and everything, riding for peace. And we would pass out these books called The Way to Happiness, along with the Million Man March Pledge, put out by Minister Farrakhan and Nation. And we would go to different parts of the cities and spread these books. And we ended up literally dropping the crime rate in Los Angeles by 50%. We were given the award for those years that we've been marching. 50%. It had been the lowest since 1959. Now, the miracle is this. This is a miracle. If anybody would have called up anybody and said to them, "Listen, we're going to have a meeting or a summit in your house on Sunday, 4 or 5 days from now, and it's going to be a meeting between the Crips and the Bloods, and it's an emergency, so we just going to take your property." How many people would give us permission? Right.
Nobody.
Nobody gives us permission.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It was the Church of Scientology Community Center that opened their doors to allow the Crips and the Bloods to come together to unite for peace. And not one incident. It was an experience of love and compassion and communication and speaking that caused these two groups to come together in peace and harmony to demonstrate what group would have done that. But it was a group called Scientology that allowed a miracle like that to take place and showed us and demonstrated that real help and real things can be done positive to curb violence.
Yeah.